All right, welcome everyone to Art at Home for our third July class. This is July 21st. We are celebrating artists who are French speakers or, excuse me everyone, just one second, French speakers or French American artists, because we celebrate both Bastille Day and American Independence Day in the month of July, both of which are very French centric events. So I want to thank, first of all, the Hoboken Public Library for allowing us to have these wonderful classes. The Hoboken Library is amazing in the fact that they support the arts as well as they do. We are grateful to them. This is an extraordinary gift that we can do art from our own homes during the time of pandemic.
We're up
Again,
here without AC.
thank you so much. So I'm first, let me try and
Oh,
mute.
the air is terrible.
I want
Yes.
to remind you all of
Yes, yes. It
ground
says very
rules.
unhealthy air quality.
That I'm going to ask all participants to please stay muted until you have a question or a comment, at which point, of course, you can unmute yourselves and say whatever you need to say. But do remember that most artists, or some artists, a lot of artists, need quiet in which to create. All right. The French speaking artist that we are going to celebrate and look at and focus on today is a man named Edgar Degas. He's probably familiar to many of you. He was one of the leading lights in the Impressionist movement in France in the 1800s. Ironically, Degas rejected the term impressionist. He did not want to be called an impressionist. He preferred being called a realist. And we're going to talk a bit about that. Today, though, I'm going to speak less about Degas' life. We're going to spend more time looking at his work, and then I'm going to spend some time talking about the proportions of the human body, because our assignment today is to learn about and review how to draw the human figure. For those of you who've never drawn the human body before, please don't panic, please don't stress. I'm going to prove to you that it's way easier than you thought it might be. For those of you who are not new to this game, who've had many lessons with me in drawing the human figure, I invite you to listen to the review, because there are going to be things you might have missed the first few times around, and I think that they're going to help you and strengthen the skills that you already have. It's always good to listen and practice those skills. In fact, Degas' favorite artist, and one whom he was lucky enough to study with, was Ingres, and Ingres' first words to Degas were draw, 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 and then draw some more. So we will be doing a lot of drawing today, particularly of the human figure. All right. Short discussion of his life, though, is required. He was born in 1834 in Paris, France, to relatively well-to-do parents. He is most famous for his pastel drawings and oil paintings. He also created amazing bronze sculptures. He was a printer, and I most admire him for his ability to draw. He was an incredible draftsman. And that's why, one of the reasons why I chose him today as the artist of focus when we are going to be drawing the human body, because he did amazing drawings. He is most famous for his renditions of drawings of dancers. He also drew racehorses and jockeys and bathing women. He did portraits that are famous for their psychological intensity, and I invite you to look at them when you get a chance. He began painting very early in life. Like many artists that we've spoken of before Degas, he did not initially go to art school. His father wanted him to go to law school, and he did. He struggled through law school, hated it, and upon graduating from there, he started becoming a copyist at the Louvre Museum. And he went to the Louvre every day and he sat down and he copied sculptures, he copied paintings, and that's how he began to learn to draw. And he was only 18 at that time. He then met Ingres, Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, in 1855. Degas revered him. And this is what he said to Degas: "Draw lines, young man, and still more lines, both from life and from memory, and you will become a good artist." Degas took that to heart and he became a student at the École des Beaux-Arts. He studied drawing there. And then in 1856, he traveled to Italy, where he would remain for the next 3 years. And he studied the great Italian masters. While there, he returned to France in 1859 and began exhibiting at the Salon in Paris. He then met Edouard Manet. Those of you who took my class yesterday at the Multipurpose Center in Hoboken, you know a bit about Manet. Manet influenced Degas by showing him the value in painting and drawing everyday people. And this is when Degas realized, I am a realist. I am not a traditional painter at all. I don't want to paint royals. I don't want to paint people who are court followers. I don't want to paint the wealthy. I want to paint and draw the everyday people that I see on the street or in the dance studio. And that was a huge breakthrough for him. He then enlisted in the National Guard in the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. And after the war in 1872, he moved to New Orleans, Louisiana, where he lived with his brother René and loved it there. But he returned to Paris in 1873 when his father died, and he realized unhappily that his father left his family in debt. And that forced Degas to really invest his time and energy in his painting career because he needed to support his family. He produced his greatest work in that year from 1873 to 1874. He was very prolific. From 1874 to 1886, he joined the Impressionist movement. He was in 8 of their shows, and he took a leading role in organizing those exhibitions, even though he did not count himself as a member of their group. He particularly didn't want to be connected with Monet and the other landscape painters. He did not paint en plein air. In other words, he never worked out of doors. He was an indoor guy. He was a studio painter. He was very conservative in his social attitudes and was completely scandalized by the more avant-garde lifestyle of the Impressionists. I always found that so interesting about Degas. I think that's probably enough to know about his personal life. He was a brilliant sculptor. This is a little known fact. You can see one of his most wonderful sculptures at the Metropolitan Museum of Art of a young dancer. It is a bronze piece. I think it's on the main floor of the museum. It's quite wonderful. He died, what year? 1917, September 27th in Paris, aged 83. All right, any additional thoughts or comments about his life? If not, I want to start looking at his work. And for those of you who weren't with me earlier on, I want to tell people about the hand raise option. At the bottom of your screen, there is a row of small pictures or icons. The very last one is called reactions. It's a smiley face. You do have the option of clicking on the smiley face. And at the bottom of that box, there's a raise hand option. And you can always click on that and I'll know you have something to say. That's going to be especially good at sharing time at the end of class. Or you can always just unmute. If you're burning to make a comment, you can just unmute. All right, let's look at some pictures. These pictures are going to prime your creative pump to get you going with the work that we're going to create today. We're first going to look at Degas' work. Then I'm going to start showing you some diagrams to help you understand the proportions of the human body. Then we're going to look at some photographs of the very famous ballerina Misty Copeland. And then we're going to go to work drawing our own pictures of the human body. All right, and apologies, I have a neighbor behind me who has been building his own furniture, and you can probably hear his buzz saw. I neglected to ask my husband to put the air conditioner in my window last night, and so I have to keep all my windows open. All right, so here is an exquisite painting by Degas. Unfortunately, because it is a digital image, it's quite pixelated, but it does demonstrate for us the Impressionist style, even though Degas distanced himself from the Impressionist movement. This is done in the Impressionist style. The brush strokes are visible. It is a very textured surface. He used thick paint. If you were to stand close to a Degas painting, it would be less obvious what the subject matter of this painting is. You would have to move back from the piece in order to see that there are many dancers in this painting. And that was what the Impressionists did. Their intent, their concept was to catch just the impression of the image, the fleeting moment of movement of the person or thing. And they did it by the quick application of multiple dashes and applications of paint. It becomes more apparent later on in the post-impressionistic movement called surrealisme. And the Impressionists were the beginning of that modernist movement. The Impressionists loved light. They loved the quality of light and how it played across the person or object they were looking at. Look at the glorious way Degas used light. Obviously, this is a dancer on stage, and the way the spotlight is projecting on her makes the light quality so incredibly dramatic. She's in extremely bright light, so the shadows on her arms are so very dark and rich. The white on her tutu glows so brilliantly. And then I so love this very bright, shining reflection on the dance floor in the lower left corner where my cursor is. Notice the proportions of the dancer's body. It's perfect. As I mentioned before, Degas really was a master draftsman. He could draw particularly figures in motion. The human figure, the way he drew horses was extraordinary. We're not going to look at them today. I want you to focus on the human figure. Please notice how very long her arms are in proportion to her body. Beginning artists frequently make arms and legs too short. Please notice her neck, quite long. We all have long necks, even though we might not agree, but the neck is an important part of the body. Notice the width of her shoulders in relation to the span of her waist and hips. Where are the shoulders? See how they align with her hips. These are important things to start looking at. Look at where this elbow is in conjunction with her knee. You see how they align. And then her ankle. Notice how long this leg is. All right, let's look at a few more pictures by Degas. Anyone want to comment on this one? I think we're sleepy this morning. Let's try another one. This is one of his drawings. So love this one. You can see, those of you who know Ingres, you can see the influence of Ingres in this drawing. The strength of Degas' lines. I mean, his subject matter is quite delicate for the most part, but his line quality is so powerful. Again, the length of her arm in relation to the length of her leg. Our limbs are long, even short people. And most ballerinas are not tall. Tall dancers are the exception, although that's changing. Her arms and legs are long in relation to her torso, from the neck to the hips. Our arms and legs are long. And I'm going to explain more about that later. Notice the way he utilizes shadow, although we may not get to using shading today in our work, but shadow rounds the figure and makes it look three-dimensional. And he shades his background to make the figure come forward and look more real and rounded. I always say, don't neglect your background. Notice the shadow beneath her chin. This is what gives the head volume. And I do so love the dark outline. No comments?
Liz, you said that the arms and legs are short, are long, and yet it seems like quite a chunky ballerina.
Well,
And
I'm going to prove to you, Naomi, I'm going to prove to you how long arms and legs are in a moment. So trust me on this. This is quite a muscular ballerina, I would say.
But my question is, how do you convey a height of somebody if you put one image into a picture?
I'm going to teach you that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that we don't see a whole lot of skin, but what we do see, we see that musculature, we see the movement. The dancer is about to either be in a pose or a movement, like not a lot of background, but again, it's showing so much depth and again, movement, in my opinion. Really cool.
Right, he was quite an extraordinary draftsman. And notice the mistake here, do you see? And I think there was some attempt at erasure, but he didn't bother covering it up. Please remember, we all make mistakes. I think this possibly could be a mistake here too. This looks like it might have been the original foot and leg, and he changed it. Notice how he noticed that the foot is slightly pronated here and on the side. Love it. All right, great comments, everybody. One last picture. Or two. One more painting. And then we're going to look at one of his sculptures. What happened? This one refuses to open up. All right, let's try the sculpture. I don't know why this won't open up. It's frustrating. Oh, it did open up, but you know what? It's just a close-up of the original. So let's look at his sculpture. It's the one I wanted to open up is just a close-up of the first image we looked at. So I don't think that's worth looking at. Yeah, let's look at the sculpture now. Can you all see this? So this is the piece at the Met. Can you see it?
No, the sculpture is not
Still
visible.
thinking.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll stop that share. We'll try again. Oh, you know why? Because I still have this open. So let's get rid of that. Oh. What about now? Are you able to see the sculpture now?
I can see it.
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
can see it too.
So this is the one at the Met. It's just a lovely bronze piece. Love the strain in her neck and shoulders. Really wonderful piece. And this is an actual fabric tutu that has been joined to the bronze sculpture. So that was way ahead of its time, doing that kind of thing. Again, it's a tiny piece, but it is in proportion to the human body. Her arms and legs are long. Look at the wonderful hip thrust.
I love how fluid this skirt is, and it's in bronze. It's amazing.
Well, I believe the skirt is fabric.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is material that's been attached to the bronze sculpture. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I've been up close and personal with this sculpture, but I believe it's actually fabric.
It is.
I think the attitude of her left leg is very interesting.
Very dancerly.
Yes, yes.
I'm thinking she's in dance class and she's taking a moment to stretch
Yeah.
her neck and back and shoulders and arms.
It's also how he captures the weight. That's what makes it interesting. The weight and the
Right.
movement.
Right. The thrust of the hips and where the feet are is what enables this piece to stand up and remain upright.
Somehow for a novice, as I am, I feel that the leg in front looks like more, well built compared to the leg behind. The leg behind looks very slender.
That is what we call foreshortening, Krishna. I'm so glad you noticed it. The limb that is closer to us will appear larger. And sometimes the artist will exaggerate the largeness in order to make that illusion happen.
All right. I feel here it's exaggerated. Am I right?
It's a bit of exaggeration, and it's also because things that are behind and at a distance are always smaller.
I love how they have the sculpture lit. It's amazing.
Yes, well, the Met they're masterful at doing things like that. It's a beautiful piece. So he carved this first in wax, and then it was cast in bronze. It's called a lost wax casting. And it's a particular kind of sculptor's wax that's used. All right, I want to move on. First, here are the materials that you will need. Paper, lots of paper, and regular photocopy paper like this, perfect. Because today we are sketching, we are practicing. I do not expect you to do a finished masterpiece today, particularly those of you for whom this is the first time you have sketched the human body. You need number 2 pencil, just a regular old school pencil like this. Any brand will do, well sharpened, and I recommend a good old-fashioned pink eraser. That's all you need. Also, if you can Google on your computer the dancer, I'm going to put it in the chat box, Misty Copeland, and find some photographs of her. She's your model for today. And if you're lucky enough to have a printer, I would recommend you print out 1 or 2 images of her. If not, just put her up on your screen to look at. You cannot draw the human body from memory. It is impossible. While you're gathering your materials, I am going to put on our screen a diagram of the proportions of the human body, because the next thing I'm going to do in this class is talk about just that, proportions of the human body. And for many of you in this class, I know it's going to be review. But as I mentioned earlier, review is a good thing. So I'm going to give you all a minute to get everything you need. And forgive me,
Can you share this particular document with us?
I thought I was sharing it. Can you not
Oh,
see
you
it?
were? I'll look for it.
Can you see it, Krishna? If you cannot, let me know right away and I'll try again.
Seem to have it.
All right, I'll fix that. I seem to be having technical problems today for some reason. The full moon tomorrow, maybe that has something to do with it. What about now? What about now? Are you able to see this, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Krishna, you can see it?
I can see it, of course. I can.
Wonderful. Okay. So everyone has your pencil, paper, and eraser, I hope.
Yes.
I'm going to try and reduce this a little so it's more easily visible. All right, so the human body. The ancient Greeks discovered that you can measure the proportions of the human body by head lengths. So, for example, if I were to take, we're going to stop the share for a moment so you can look at me. I'll put this picture back up again. If I were to put my hands at the top and bottom of my head, I could then literally measure my entire body by head lengths, all the way down to my toes. The other thing that the ancient Greeks realized is we are symmetrical. Unless we've had a debilitating illness, we've been born with differences, or we've been in an accident that has changed our body in some way. We are, for the most part, on the outside, symmetrical. So those are two things to think about. The other thing, and Nomi, this comes back to the question that you had earlier. Let me move back from the screen. Hopefully you can see more of my figure. Not really, but imagine, and I invite you all to do this. If you stand up straight and take your arms and lay them straight at your sides, lay them straight, and feel where the tips of your fingers land on your legs, you can actually experience the extraordinary length of the human arm. They land halfway between the waist and the knees. Everybody stand up. If you are physically able to stand up, please stand up and try that. Stand up and put your arms at your sides, straight down at your sides. See how long your arms are? All right. It's pretty cool. And the other interesting thing that might help you in understanding proportion is the size of the human face is almost the same size as your hand. So hard to do when you're looking at your own face. So that can help you in measurement, proportional measurement too, when you're trying to figure out the length of the human body. All right, let's try and look at that diagram again. I've got to reopen it. And share it with you all. So here we go. The average human body, and there are variations, but the average human body, let's count, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a half head lengths long. So the human body, even the shortest person on earth, is pretty long. The arm, 1, 2, 3 head lengths from the shoulder down, maybe 3.5. You see this little scrunchy bit here by the shoulder. And see where the tips of the fingers line, almost at the kneecap. Here's the kneecap. The leg alone is 1, 2, 3, including the foot, 4 head lengths right there. The torso, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There are slight differences between male and female, but slight. Shoulder width, sideways heads here, but 1, 2, 3 in width. You can find this diagram on Google. You just type in proportions of the human body and it will be yours. Print it out, keep it, use it if you are lucky enough to have a printer. Or save it in your documents and open it when you need it. I so hate wasting paper. All right, so for now, try and imprint this on your mind. Any comments before I stop the share on this? Nothing. Usually there's someone who kind of goes, nah, I don't believe it. I want to emphasize, though, yet again, how long the arms are, because this is an area where beginning students usually can accept the length of the arms. And know me, even the most muscular arms are quite long.
Is it true that the span of your arms makes your height?
I don't know. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3.5.
7.
4, 5, 6, 7. Well, yeah, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost for men. That's true. It almost does it. If you count the shoulder width, then absolutely. So arms plus shoulder width is your height. Awesome. All right, so now I want to share with you these fabulous photographs of Misty Copeland, because this is the kind of picture that I want you to look for your work today. And you all have computers because you're on your screens. So you have access to this. If you don't have access to this, then you need to look for photographs of athletes. That would work too. Newspaper photographs of athletes or magazine photos of athletes. If you can find a full figure photograph of a model, someone who is moving in an interesting way. The thing with models is, though, they tend to be covered up because the clothing is more important than the figure. But you can possibly find something. If we were in an in-person class, I would have a model available for you, but unfortunately, we don't have that capability in Zoom. Can everyone see this photo?
Yes.
Okay. This is the kind of image I'm hoping you can find on your computer screen, because looking at this kind of figure will help you learn how to begin to draw. It looks impossible to do, but if you think about her body in terms of head length, it becomes easy. And in a moment, I'm going to actually show you how to do this kind of work. So let's count first of all. Here's her head. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not being very accurate because this is too long. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 head lengths to the tip of her toe. Remember, with ballerinas, they are on point, which is going to elongate the leg. But the human body is never longer than 8 head lengths. Her leg itself, let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4 approximately head lengths, or 3.5 head lengths. And you start noticing interesting things like, look at where her ear is in relation to her shoulder. Look at where her bun is next to her elbow. Her wrist near her kneecap. How wonderful is that? This is why people in motion are the best people to learn how to draw from in your beginning work. The tip of her finger next to her calf muscle. See how that helps you see how long the sweep of her arm is. Look at where her knee is next to the calf of her other leg. You see that? It's not marvelous. Look at where her hip is in relation to her knee. Her hip in relation to her thigh and her rear end. Look at where her waist is in relation to her armpit and her shoulder. And look at the sweep of her back and the thrust of her chest how far forward her chest is thrust and how far back her head and neck are thrust. Okay, let's look at one or two more pictures of her, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to be amazed at how much fun this is. Let's try a more static pose. It might be less intimidating. Can you all see this one?
Yeah.
How much do I want to grow up to be her? What a fabulous body. Okay, now I love that she's against this dark backdrop, because now you can start looking at things like the space behind her. We call this the negative space. Look at this dark triangle between her legs. This will help you see the distance between her feet, which will help you also to see the width of her hips in relation to her feet. Notice the curvature of her waist and where it lies with her shoulder. Where is her chin next to her breast, and the top of her shoulder and the curvature of her neck. The arms are a bit more challenging in this pose because they are independent of everything else in her body. But you can, whoops, I don't want to do that. Although, is that helpful if I have these dot thingies here?
No, not really.
Yes.
But notice now where I've stopped the dots, where the elbow is in relation to the bottom of her leotard and her hip. That might be helpful, a helpful relationship. Look at where her knees are. They're almost at the same height, although in her right leg on our left side, this knee is slightly lower because of the torque, the turn of the leg and the ankle away. Her right leg is thrust forward slightly. Her weight, the body of her weight is resting completely on her right foot, which is pretty amazing. But again, proportionally, notice how extraordinarily long the arms and legs are, even though she is an amazingly athletic and muscular ballerina. There was huge controversy in the aesthetic world of ballet when she was coming up about her athleticism. Many people were horrified because she broke barriers, not just racially, but by the athletic quality of her body. There is a neck. Don't forget the neck. Notice the width of her shoulders, 3 head lengths wide. The glorious length of her torso, how it's thrust forward slightly. All right. So I want to give everyone another minute or two to find images to look at. Do not draw from memory. It's impossible. And I have neglected to print one for myself, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to work on this one, which you cannot see right now, I realize. I'm going to print it out and then I'll show it to you. It's the first one we looked at. You've seen it. So I'm going to print it to work from, because this is the problem. I cannot project an image for you to look at and show you how to draw at the same time. Unfortunately, you must have your own image to look at. Does everyone understand that?
Right.
Krishna, do you have the capability of finding a picture to look at?
Yeah, I have the picture, and the
right.
one you showed in the first one, I have it.
Okay.
It's on my screen. I've kept it on one corner.
Okay, good. Does everyone else have that ability?
Would you like me to share that PDF? I converted it. Should I do that?
If you can do that, that would be
I'll
fabulous.
do it. I'll do it right away.
Because unfortunately, there
No,
may be a
I'll
way,
do it.
but I have not mastered the technology of sharing the image while demonstrating how to draw it. All right, I'll be right back, everyone. I have to go to my printer. So here it is, the first picture that I showed you all that I'm going to copy from. And I am going to draw in Sharpie so that it will be visible for you. I don't want you to do that. You are using number 2 pencil so that you can erase. I want to demonstrate for you a technique called gesture drawing. Gesture drawing is something Edgar Degas. All artists start their figure drawings in this way. It is a way to warm up. You need to warm up with drawing just the way you warm up when you're doing ballet. You need to do those bar exercises. In drawing, you need to do gesture drawing to warm up your arm and relax your eyes in order to really see what's in front of you. Gesture drawing is a way to do large sweeping movements with your arm. You want to not grip your pencil tightly at the point like this. You want to hold it loosely by the eraser end. That enables you to do a free-flowing line. Your image may not look realistic, but it will enable you to start looking at those key head lengths and proportions of the human body that I want you to start seeing and practicing today. All right, here I go. I tend to draw larger than life because that's the way I was trained in art school. One of the beauty things about drawing larger than life is it gives you greater room for error. You can make proportional artistic misjudgments, and they're not as noticeable when you draw larger than life. But your style is your own. If you like working small, then do it. But try now for these initial sketches to keep your arm and shoulder as loose as possible and hold your pencil near the eraser, not the tip. Don't grip it with the grip of death. I start with the head because we are, after all, doing head lengths. I am trying to capture the gesture. My image may, in fact, look more like a stick figure than an actual person. And that is okay. I'm trying to relax and learn to see what is in front of me. One of the difficulties in this particular drawing is the foreshortening of her left arm. Raised up high, the hand is thrust forward, and it makes the arm look shorter than it actually is. Her chest and torso and belly are thrust forwards. Her left leg is arching back and up at such a dramatic angle. It hurts to look, actually. My lines are quick and rather sloppy because I am just trying to capture the gesture. I can't even fit her foot on the page. It's going off the edge of the page, and that's okay. And finally, the leg on which she is supporting her entire body, her right leg, thrusts downwards. God bless those magnificent thighs that she has and her amazing calf. I did not bring her head back far enough, so I'm going back up to the top. I didn't make her head big enough either, so I'm going back up to the top, and I'm doing that again. Nor did I make the chest area of her torso big enough, so I'm going back to make those corrections. I'm darkening areas that I think are right now, and I'm adding to the figure. What I would do now, I would crumple up this drawing and start another. And I would do it over and over and over again till I was satisfied with the piece I had. Now, those of you who are my veteran students, I encourage you, when you've come to the gestural drawing that you feel is the best proportionally, I want you to start adding shading. Make the figure look three-dimensional. Darken the side that's in shadow. Use your eraser to create highlights on the side that is lighter than the others. All right, any questions so far? So now I can project the image on my screen if you'd like.
Yeah.
If that would be helpful to folks. Okay, so I think I can do that. Now that I've demonstrated what I want you to do. Remember, I don't want you to try and create the perfect drawing today. I don't want to see an Ingres or a Degas or an Alice Neal drawing today. I want to see your drawings. I want you to practice. The more you draw, the easier it becomes, the better you get. So I've been drawing, gosh, 7 from 73 is how many years? A long time. And I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So I'm going to put that photo up for us all to look at now. I love, at the moment, all you can see is her leg, right? It's pretty cool. All right, please mute everyone. I'm going to continue giving you tips. If you are doing this drawing, notice how far back her head is. Her bun is almost touching her arm. And my guess, because of the foreshortening, I'm thinking the bun is halfway between the shoulder and the elbow. Very close to the elbow. And look at the way the neck arches. Beautiful curvature of her neck. And the thrust of her chin to the ceiling. The way her left toe shoe is pointing upwards. It really, really emphasizes the curvature of her leg. And I didn't even notice this when I was looking at the photograph, but look at the way her left knee pushes outwards. So her thigh is going up and out at the same time. Do you see that? My guess is she had to hold this pose for a considerable amount of time to get this photo too. What strength. So her left hip is directly above her right hip. And the width of her leg here is considerable. But the force of her entire body is concentrated on this tiny point. And all of this is one head length. Amazing. Now, if at any point you want me to stop the screen share and look at your work, or if you want me to demonstrate gesture drawing again, I'm happy to do it. You can let me know in the chat box or. A few people I feel like did arrive late. So if there's something you think you missed, let me know. Remember, the eraser is our friend, and there's no shame in tearing up and starting over. The more drawings you do, the easier it becomes, the more skilled you get. Try and use both sides of your paper. Waste not, want not. Save some trees.
Liz, can I show you what I have come so far?
Absolutely. Am I speaking to Krishna?
Yeah, see,
Okay.
this is just
So
the framework.
I'm going to have to stop the share, everyone. Forgive me.
Is it visible?
I'm going to spotlight you right now. Oh, it is difficult to see, unfortunately.
Now?
Yes. Oh, yes. Well done. My suggestion, there are a few areas that could use a little bit of widening.
All right,
Her neck is a bit thin.
all right,
I would widen it.
okay,
Her arm needs more muscle.
okay,
I would widen the arm.
all right.
And I think the rest is good. The waist is perhaps a little, the curvature in the back is maybe a little extreme.
Okay, okay. I'll try to work
Beautiful,
on this.
beautiful. You've never done this before?
Never. This is the first time I'm trying to like draw these human lines.
Bravo. You have done exceptionally well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else?
I'll share.
Stephanie.
Can you see?
Excellent. Also
Oh,
excellent.
wow. That's amazing.
Okay.
I've never ever done this before.
Wow. You're just too good.
You're
Can
doing
you see?
really well. Stephanie, some suggestions, really good. The distance from the hip to the knee, you need to make that longer.
Okay.
The thigh is a little too short.
Right.
So
With
I want
which
you to
one?
focus on that. Just focus on that now.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're doing great.
Thank you. So you're talking about the leg that's raised.
I'm talking,
Talking about the leg that's raised.
look at me.
Yeah.
This distance
Right.
from the hip to the knee.
I see. Yeah. Right.
You need to lengthen it. Okay. This is
Okay, but we're
Two-
talking about the leg that's raised though, especially, right? The leg that's raised.
okay. Wait, show me your drawing again. No, I think both.
Both?
Yes, both.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Excellent.
I'll
Good.
try. Thank you.
And I think the width too, maybe a little more muscle.
On the leg?
Yeah.
Okay.
She has very, very large thighs.
Yeah.
She could not be the kind of dancer she is without it. Okay. Anyone
I see.
else?
Liz, could you put the image back, please?
Yes. Give me one moment. I'm scrolling through to see if anyone else needs help. Not seeing anyone, no hands up. Okay, let's get the image back. This is, I've said it before, but I must say it again. The major frustration for me with Zoom teaching is I cannot walk around the room and see what you're doing so that I can offer you on the spot instruction. There you go. It's the antithesis of teaching. If you're a teacher and if you've ever had to do this kind of Zoom teaching, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So the sound you may be hearing other than the saw in the background, I'm continuing working on my drawing. It's a mixed media now. I am using the Sharpie and also graphite crayon. When you're feeling bolder in your work and freer in what you're doing, more confident, these are media that you might want to try. And thinking for our inaugural in-person classes in the fall, I'm going to focus on figure drawing again. I'm thinking about it, not positive yet, but it would be nice to have a series of figure classes again, just so we could reacquaint ourselves with our skills. It's been a while. Everybody good? We have 5 minutes till sharing. Oh, so you could still see me on the side screen, the little picture, but not the big picture. That's good. Okay, one more minute, everyone. All right. So sorry to stop the creative process. But we're coming close to the end of class. And I'm going to ask everyone to mute at this point, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Suzanne, you raised your hand. Do you have something to ask at this point?
Get some help, that's all, whenever you're ready to do that.
Okay, let me just briefly mention our artist for next week is our very own Ibundoy, and he will visit our class and talk about his own work and share it with us. And there'll be a question and answer period where you can talk to him about his work, and I'll have a project for us inspired by the kinds of things that he does. All right, Suzanne.
Okay, I'm not quite sure how to hold it. Can you see it or?
I'm going to replace the spotlight. How lovely. Very nice.
So I'm still working on the gesture and everything, but I was having a lot of problem in here.
Well, the arm is probably the most difficult part of this pose because it's terribly foreshortened because of the angle that she is holding it. So it appears to be a whole lot shorter than it actually is. I wouldn't change it. Her fingertips are actually back a little bit closer to the knee.
So more down.
Yeah.
More like this. Okay.
Yeah, because the hand is projected outwards more.
Okay.
But I wouldn't stress over it because it's beautifully done. And the only other suggestion I would have is her right thigh is a bit broader.
Here.
Yeah, it's okay. Enormous.
Yeah, so this make bigger.
And in this pose, you can see more of her rump, more of her buttock underneath the leg. No, underneath. Yeah, right there where your finger is.
Okay.
But other than that, really well done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The head maybe is thrown back a little bit more than you have it too. Just a slight, yeah. Her chin is up really, really high. Yeah, tipped up higher. Or maybe it's because of the way I'm reading the image, that it looks like you have the chin. Here, I'll put the cursor where I think the chin is. Yeah, it's probably impossible for me to put the cursor and for you to look at the screen at the same. Yeah, it's impossible. But that you have a dark area that I think is the chin, and maybe it's just the shadow. I'll tell you what, send me the JPEG, Suzanne, and then I can refer to it better.
Okay,
It's a small, easy thing to fix.
thank you. Thanks, Liz.
Liz, I would like to share.
I'm sorry, was that Shirley?
Yes.
Shirley, I'm actually gonna change the rules this time, but you can go next. I was gonna go in order of the way I see people.
Right.
But I didn't get to announce that yet, so Shirley, I'm gonna let you go next. And then I'm
Okay.
gonna go back to the beginning, everyone, and go in the order that I have people today. Wow, this is terrific. Love the way you did. I love the way you did the neck, Shirley. I would blend those shadows a little at the edges more.
Okay.
That would be one thing I would do. And also at the folds in the fabric underneath her arm, the shading there is a bit extreme to me.
Okay.
I would blend it a little more.
All right.
Well done. You got
wise.
you got the foreshortening in the arm. Really, you did that well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, so sorry everyone, now I'm gonna go back to the beginning and I'm gonna start with the person closest to me, which is Stephanie, and you actually had a turn already. Sorry, Stephanie.
You want to just see the end of it?
Marvelous, but I'm gonna skip past you, and Krishna, sorry, I'm gonna skip past you because you had a turn. And the next person I have is SD.
Okay. I did another photograph.
Okay. Can you hold it up? I can only see, I can't see the whole image. Yeah, this is terrific pose.
Yeah, the pose was great, but I couldn't, I wanted to stretch her. I couldn't, I don't know.
The shading needs work. You need to blend, you need to go from dark to light. You need to make it more gradual.
Okay. I will. Okay.
And I feel the face is a little too white, bright, because it almost looks like a clown mask. But the proportions look very good. Well done on the proportions.
Yeah, she's more.
Is that pencil?
It's a charcoal.
Charcoal.
Yeah, so blend more. And then the other one's terrific. Terrific.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. The head maybe on the second one, the head is back more. Yeah. All right, Teresa, you're next. Do you want to share? You don't have to. You're muted, Teresa.
All year long at school. You're muted. I was doing two. One is my granddaughter, a photo I had of her ballet that I was working on. She was up in the air. But then I switched to the one you were doing.
Can't see it.
Difficult to see because of the lighting in your room, unfortunately.
That better?
Yeah, better. Your proportions look good.
Daughter was up in the air on
Can't
that
see
one.
anything.
You can't? And then this is the one you were doing.
Yeah. The proportions look very good to me.
The amazing thing to me when I used the eraser the most was the length of the legs. I would think I had them, and then I would actually take a ruler and measure her head and then measure the legs. And it was remarkable how much longer the legs are than I thought they were.
Good, good, good. There's nothing wrong with using a ruler, by the way. Keep
Well, it's
keep
just-
measuring.
I didn't see
And
that.
the more you start seeing those lengths, the less you're going to depend on the ruler. It's a good starting point. Good.
Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.